Hello, and welcome to Explore TBR, the channel dedicated to finding, mapping, and exploring what remains of the historic Thailand-Burma Railway. In this video, we're going to explore the area in the 5 or 6 kilometers leading up to Tampii Station. Tampii Station was located at the 147 kilometer point along the railway, about 17 kilometers beyond Tarso, or the current Nam Tok Station, and 8 kilometers before Hin Tok Station in the Hellfire Pass area. The Kwai Noi River passes through a very deep canyon in the Tampii area, which was a major obstacle for the Japanese railway engineers. The railway had been roughly following the east bank of the Kwai Noi River since Kanchanaburi, but it was impossible to build the railway through this canyon. This is why the railway has been climbing inland, away from the river since Whampoa, reaching the big S-bend in the highway here, and continuing to climb up the cliffside until it reaches the plateau on top. Then it twists and winds along the plateau, angling past Tampii Station and on through this gap in the hills here. This was the summit of the grade, and from here it is generally downhill all the way to Kinsayok Station, where the railway rejoins the east bank of the Kwai Noi River and continues its way up the Kwai Noi Valley towards Takanun and the Burmese border beyond. I plan to do a separate map and video in this summit area and the entirety of the big hill between Whampoa and Kinsayok. Let's have a look at some of the features you will find along this section of the railway. Going back to the big S-bend in the highway, we pick up the trace of the railway here. Each of these black and white segments works out to around 50 meters on the ground. If you recall, this was the north end of the trail we covered in the Tonchan North video. The railway line comes out of the long curved cutting here, crosses under the highway here, and heads across this field. Curving to the left, it crosses this dirt road just past the T-junction here, where you can still clearly see railway ballast in the road. Continuing to curve around the valley, the railway crossed the very large bridge Q595, a 190-foot-long bridge over low ground. The embankment at the east end is difficult to find and may have been bulldozed altogether, but the very high embankment on the west side is easy to find amongst the trees here. Photo 1 shows the embankment looking up from the valley floor. Beyond the end of the embankment, the railway has been covered by rubble pushed down from construction of the highway above for around 100 meters. Then the railway trace can be found again climbing up the hillside. Accessing the railway here is quite difficult. You can climb down from the highway, but it's a very steep slope, and getting back up to the highway is extremely difficult. You may be able to climb up from the valley floor here, but I've never tried that way. There is a deep cutting here, shown in photo 2, which was taken in February 2017. A short distance further along is a second cutting, shown in photo 3. You can see how overgrown it is here, and pushing through this section is very difficult. Each time I've come here, it's been the same, very overgrown and practically impassable. Another 50 meters up the slope is the site of Bridge Q594, a 140-foot bridge over low ground. Another 50 meters along, the railway makes a slight bend to the right through another short cutting. Then yet another, after which the railway is cut into a ledge along the hillside for the next 300 meters towards Wat Pumut. The railway crossed Bridge Q593, a very high 100-foot-long viaduct over a deep gorge. Through a 100-meter-long cutting, the railway arrives at the grounds of Wat Pumut right here. Photo 4 looks back into the cutting from the path at Wat Pumut. I mention Wat Pumut because the grounds at Wat Pumut offer possibly the easiest access to any part of the old abandoned railway. Of course, you can easily find the active railway in places like the bridge in Kanchanaburi or the viaduct at Whampoa, but if you want to find and explore the old abandoned railway beyond Nam Tok, it usually requires some difficult hiking and climbing. Even at the well-maintained Hellfire Pass trail, you still need to go down the 1,000 steps, as I've heard it called. But here at Wat Pumut, you can park your vehicle and just walk down the path and you find yourself on the railway. This clip shows where to go from the car park. From the car park, you'll easily find this arch, keep going past the fish pond to your left, and carry on down the path beside this building. They have even installed a handrail to make it easier. It's easy to accidentally go right past the railway and keep walking down the path. Be sure to look left and right as you walk. Here it is. There is a cutting to the left and a cleared trail leading to an embankment going the other way. The railway trace along this section even has paving stones to make the walk easier. From here it is a very short walk down to where Bridge Q593 once stood. While you walk along here, as I've said before, try to imagine yourself here as a prisoner of war. The total isolation, not knowing where on earth you are, knowing that your loved ones back home also have no idea where you are, you have no shoes and little clothing to protect from the elements, the constant thirst and starvation, the various horrible tropical diseases, the beatings and abuse and cruelty, and all this with no end in sight. And through all of this, you are forced to chisel this cutting out of the rock and build these bridges across impossible spans. When you get to the site of the bridge, have a look over the edge and contemplate how on earth you would build a bridge here. I think you need to be out here along the railway to really grasp the reality of their situations. Back at Wat Pumut, the railway line continues north towards Tampii, and in just a few dozen meters we come to a high embankment made of broken rock, presumably from the cutting we just left. Photo 5 looks along the railway trace atop the embankment, and Photo 6 shows the height of the embankment from the side, looking back toward Wat Pumut. The fellow you see in the video here is one of my viewers, known locally as Ajarn Andy. He happened to be in Kanchanaburi at the same time as I was, and explored this section of the railway with me. A nicer fellow you won't likely find. The paving stones along the trail continue for a considerable distance to the north of Wat Pumut as well, making this section of the railway very easy to explore. For the next few hundred meters, the railway continues along flat land or slight embankments. A few of the original sleepers are still visible here, left over from when the railway was torn up nearly 80 years ago. Photo 7 shows one of them. The railway then continues across flat land along the edge of the cliff here. You can leave the railway trace and walk a short distance to the edge and have a panoramic view of the canyon. Further along, at this point, which I've simply called field, the railway line has been recently ploughed over to clear farmland. In the latest Google Maps satellite view, the railway ballast and roadbed is still clearly visible, so this has only been ploughed very recently. Photo 8 shows the trace of the railway after being ploughed under. You can see the strip of ballast along the edge of the field. In a few years, this probably won't be visible at all anymore. Photo 9 shows the railway also ploughed under to expand this field. Again, the latest Google Maps satellite view shows a tree line here along the railway trace, but that has evidently been cleared away. Beyond this point, the railway makes a sharp bend to the right, over a long embankment across low ground. Photo 10 shows the railway line approaching the first bend, which is obscured by the trees ahead. Around another bend to the left, we come to the site of Bridge Q592, an enormous 320-foot-long viaduct over low ground. But I was unable to find anything here as it is completely overgrown. Just ahead, the railway trace curved to the right again over an embankment, but when I was here in March 2024, this had all been very recently bulldozed, and everything on the west side of this dirt road has now been leveled to make a field. It's very sad how bit by bit this railway is being lost. Photo 11 shows the railway ballast embedded in the dirt road here. The railway crosses over this road, which was the wartime Japanese road which followed the railway. The railway line makes a final bend to the left and then runs straight north towards Tampii Station. The main line ran straight through what is now Banputue School. The Japanese schematic diagram of Tampii Station, shown here, indicates two double-ended sidings to the east of the main line. They were located here. The station building was located at this point, and there were many other buildings and warehouses nearby. The water tower at Tampii Station was located here during the war. Although the station buildings and most of the infrastructure no longer exist, there are a few wartime concrete bases and foundations nearby, which were bulldozed off to the side to clear the construction site when the school was built. They can be found along the south side of this road here. Photo 12 shows what is believed to be the concrete base of a water filling pipe, similar to the one shown in this photo, standing to the right of the locomotive. This photo was actually taken in Kanchanaburi in 2002, but these water filling towers would have been located at many stations along the line, especially at the stations along the steep grade up and over the big hill at Tampii. Beyond Tampii, the line continues northward, bending to the left as it passes through the summit before starting the long downhill run to Kinsayok. As I mentioned, I'll cover this summit area in another video. I'll show some footage of what you'll see along this section as I talk about how best to get here and do this hike. To get here, you have a number of options. The easiest way to get here would be either by car or motorbike, or on the public bus 8203 from Kanchanaburi. Apparently, these buses are not as frequent or reliable as they used to be, so best check the schedule in Kanchanaburi beforehand, otherwise you may be in for an unexpectedly long wait for a bus. Flag down the bus anywhere along Sangchudo Road through Kanchanaburi and tell the conductor you're going to Wat Pumut. They will tell you how much to pay. The bus ride will take around an hour and a half, then alight at the temple driveway. In the description below you can find Google Map links to the location of the driveway, as well as all the other points mentioned in this video. The temple is around 300 meters from the highway, and at the temple you'll find the path down to the railway line. If you make the trip by car or motorbike, the trip will take an hour or less. This section is very long, nearly 6 kilometers in total, and is extremely difficult in places. The south end near the S-bend at Highway 323 is difficult to access down the steep hill, and from that cutting you may not be able to push all the way up the hill to Wat Pumut. You will probably want to climb back to the highway and make your way from there to Wat Pumut. Also, the line north of Wat Pumut may be very overgrown and difficult to pass through in places. It is possible to find the railway trace from some of the side roads near where photos 8, 9, and 10 were taken, but you will want to ask permission from the landowners if you cross their land. As always, the difficulty will depend on when you go. During the wet season, it will likely be very overgrown and extremely tough going. Less so in the dry season, but still quite difficult. So plan for the worst and wear heavy clothes. Nevertheless, the area immediately around Wat Pumut is very easy to access and explore throughout the year, wearing nothing more than shorts and a t-shirt and sandals. Obviously, there is no food or drink along the trail, so bring water and a snack with you. There are shops along the highway at the village just north of Ban Putway School where you can buy hot meals and cold drinks. As always, please be very careful when you're hiking. Because this is a long and difficult hike, take it easy and pace yourself. There are a few places where falls are possible down steep banks. Know your limits and don't take risks. Bring a buddy, or if you are alone, let someone know exactly where you're going and when you expect to return. Like I've said many times before, this railway is a site of historic importance. Please don't take anything, and please don't leave any litter behind. Remember the thousands of people who died under appalling conditions constructing this railway, and treat what remains of it with the respect it deserves. So that's it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting or informative. If so, please give the video a like, and feel free to subscribe and check out other videos on different sections of the railway. And if you do get out here to Tampii and explore this area, let me know how it went in the comments below. I'd really like to hear from you. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.